Hello, and welcome to Beering in Mind Beer Reviews. Today we're going to take a look at a beer from a brewery that we looked at several months ago, and that is Ginga Kogen Brewery. And this beer is called Ginga Kogen Shiro Bill, and Shiro means white. It is a wit beer. Or a Belgian white ale, and this is 4.5%. Actually, it's listed at 5 here now. Ginga Kogen is a brewery that was kind of a victim of the first big drop in Japanese craft beer in 1996. The laws were relaxed to allow smaller breweries to make beer. Before that, only large breweries, you had to brew several million liters of barrels of beer in order to get a brewing license. The laws were relaxed, and so a lot of people jumped into the market for craft beer. Ginga Kogen was fairly successful in the beginning, and they expanded quite a bit and built breweries in other parts of the country. I'm talking about Japan, of course, and they kind of overextended themselves. And now what happened to them was they had financial trouble. Yoho stepped in to help them out financially, and now they own part of Ginga Kogen Brewery. Of course, Yoho is partially owned by Kirin. So, in any case, Ginga Kogen, we used to see their beers all over in Japan, and you still do see some of them. If you want to go back, you can look at, I think it's around review number 80 or 90. You can go back and find Ginga Kogen reviews. I think I reviewed 4 of their beers. And this is another one which doesn't come out all the time, this wit beer. They are most famous for their variety of wheat beers, unpasteurized, pasteurized. So this is an unfiltered wheat beer, 5%, and on RateBeer it has 12 ratings, not too many. An average score of 3.1 out of 5, not terribly high. 45 among all beers on RateBeer, and 57 for its style, which is a wit beer or a Belgian white ale. Shall we give this a go? I haven't seen this around for quite a while. It just showed up in the liquor store last week. Okay. So it pours out a very pale, light blonde color, and the aroma, very wheaty, very definitely. The malt bill here shows barley malt and wheat malt, of course. No spice, no orange peel, no coriander listed. A bit of clovey kind of aroma. Slightly tangy in the nose. The aroma is quite estery. And we get a little bit of citrus without there actually being orange peel in this here. Let's see now. Very smooth wheat flavors. Yeah. Some yeast definitely kind of sticks on the tongue. Sort of mixed sweet and bitter through mid-palate and final. Thin-bodied, actually a bit watery. Yeah. Overall, it's a little bit sweet, maybe for the style, but it's not bad. Definitely, this is a. If you happen to see this in the store these days, you might want to give it a go. It's quite tolerable. Again, this is Ginga Kogen Shiro beer. This is the Chinese character Shiro, white and biru. So, see this on the store shelves and give it a go. Let me know what you think and subscribe to the channel. So let's move on a little bit. A few things have been happening recently. The world is quite political, of course, these days. And this man who I had known about for many, many years, Ernesto Cardenal, he died last week and at the age of 95. And I've had this book for a long, long time. I actually saw him read his poetry in San Francisco many, many years ago when I was a college student. I went to a poetry reading and he was there, and everybody, all the big San Francisco writers showed up. I still remember seeing Michael McClure there, and I think maybe Philip Whalen was there as well. In any case, Ernesto Cardenal was from Nicaragua, and he was an ordained priest. He was very active in trying to overthrow the government of the Somoza family, who were the dictators of Nicaragua for many, many years. And at one point he actually was involved in a movement that failed, and he had to flee the country. And at that point he ended up in Gethsemane, Kentucky, at the retreat of Thomas Merton, where Thomas Merton was, and studied with him there, and started studying for the priesthood with Thomas Merton. And things are connected. In high school, I had a teacher who was a priest who had also been with Thomas Merton. And this priest, his name was Father Stanky, he would come into a room almost floating, like 6 inches off the ground. We would just look at this man and think he is so holy and, such a perfect mystical sort of person. And this is, we were a bunch of, dorky high school guys, but he impressed us quite a bit. In any case, Ernesto Cardenal studied with Thomas Merton, went back to Nicaragua, and was involved in the struggle to overthrow the Somozas, which actually happened in the 70s, and then the government of Daniel Ortega and the Sandinistas came in, and Cardenal was a committed Marxist, as was Daniel Ortega and the Sandinistas who took over Nicaragua. Unfortunately, as in so many revolutions, the revolution eats its young, and Ortega eventually turned on a lot of his compatriots and became a dictator himself. And so Cardenal was fighting against him. I met a Nicaraguan writer last year in the United States. Her name is Gioconda Belli, and she knew Cardenal quite well. And so they were both, he was not in exile, but again, the promises of the revolution failed. So Cardenal was quite a guy. He was you can see from this picture, he was quite a fiery speaker. I'm just going to read a couple for you here. He studied at Columbia University in New York briefly, and that's where he was exposed to a lot of poetry that he hadn't read before, like Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot, and he was quite influenced by Pound, and some of his most famous poems are simply called epigrams, which are very short. And here's one for you. This is number 18, and it was translated by Thomas Merton. Here we go. First, I drink a beer. Suddenly, in the night, The sirens sound their long, long, long alarm. The sirens' miserable howl of fire or death's white ambulance, like a ghost wailing in the night, coming closer and closer above the streets and the houses. It rises and rises and falls, and it grows and grows, falls and goes away, growing and dying. It's neither a fire nor a death, just the dictator flashing by. Somoza. Anyway, Ernesto Cardenal died last week. Quite a man. He had a tough history with the Catholic Church. When the Pope came to Nicaragua, he went to the Pope and kneeled, and the Pope pulled his hand away and gave him a little lecture, because this was Ratzinger, John Paul II, and who decided that liberation theology, that priests shouldn't be involved in struggles against governments and that sort of thing, in any case. Well, just a small sideline for you today here. Go have a beer. And once again, we looked at Shiro beer from Ginga Kogen. Give it a try. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.